On my birthday, right in my own house. My grandson leaned in close and whispered, "Grandma, you have to get away from my parents, right now." Then he showed me a video that left me frozen. "I'm glad you're here. Stick with me to the end, and let me know which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story goes." I was up early, like always, but it wasn't out of habit, and it wasn't my aging joints keeping me from sleeping in. Today, I turned 70. And even though part of me wanted to treat it like any other day, the truth is I'd been looking forward to it. I set the coffee to brew in the old enamel pot and opened the windows in the living room. The morning breeze carried that damp earth smell that always brings my mother to mind. I swept the hallway, fluffed the couch cushions, dusted off Leo's graduation photo, the one with him in the blue cap and gown, and laid out the embroidered tablecloth I only use for meaningful occasions. This was one of them. I'd prepped the pot roast the night before, so today it just needed heating. I made mashed potatoes, sliced the dinner rolls, and topped the apple pie with a dusting of cinnamon. Everything was nearly set. I paused at the mirror in the entryway. No makeup, just a calm moment to comb my hair, button up my light blue floral cardigan, and put on a little of the cologne my husband used to wear. 6 o'clock was almost here. I couldn't stop checking the time. The moment I heard that familiar sound, the sputtering of Leo's old car, I peeked through the curtain. There they were, finally. Ethan climbed out first, backpack on one shoulder, scanning for me. The second he saw me, he smiled, walked up, and hugged me tight without saying a word. I kissed the top of his head, breathing in that clean, soapy scent I love so much. "Happy birthday, Grandma," he murmured, still holding on. "Thank you, my sweet boy," I said, my heart softening all over again. Brenda followed. Her smile was warm, her voice gentle. "Mom, it's so good to see you. The house smells amazing, just like it did when I first married Leo." I kissed her cheek but stayed quiet. Leo came in last, distracted. He gave me a quick kiss on the cheek without really looking. "Everything ready, Ma? The dining room looks nice." "Yes, come in, sit. For a bit, I just need to finish a few things in the kitchen." I walked back with a steady pace. I didn't want them to see my face, how much this meant to me. I won't pretend otherwise. Having them all here, under this roof, was everything I'd ever hoped for. I was halfway through slicing the rolls when I felt a gentle touch on my arm. It was Ethan. I could tell by the way he stood there, like he was waiting for my permission just to speak. "Grandma," he said softly, "can we talk for a minute? Right now?" "Now?" I asked, still holding the knife. "Yes, please, it's important." I looked into his eyes. He was serious in a way I'd never seen before. I nodded and followed him. We walked down the hallway and out the back door, toward the old dry well. Same one where I used to scrub Leo's underwear by hand, back when we couldn't even afford detergent. We stopped there. Ethan pulled out his phone and held it with both hands. "Please watch this, but don't be scared." The screen lit up with a video. I knew the room right away. It was their living room. Brenda sat upright on the couch, legs crossed, just like she always does. Leo stood by the window, swirling a glass of whiskey like he was mixing something up in his head. "Dr. Evans is coming this Friday, right?" Brenda asked, straight to business. "Yeah, everything's set," Leo said, sounding way too casual. "You still switching out her meds?" "Uh-huh, she doesn't have a clue. Thinks they're just vitamins," he chuckled. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, but I kept watching. "A few more weeks," Brenda went on. "If she starts getting confused, we'll file the guardianship paperwork. If she resists, we drug her, straight to the home. No drama." It felt like my body just detached, like I wasn't even in the same world anymore. But the video was real. Their voices, their faces, the way they moved, the way they spoke. No mistaking it. I looked down, leaned my back against the brick wall. The sun might as well have disappeared. Everything felt cold. Ethan exhaled like he'd been holding it in 4 days. "And there's more, Grandma. I didn't want to send this to your phone because, if they found it, I didn't know what to do." "What did you do, son?" "I planted a bug in Dad's study." He pulled up another file, just audio this time. Leo's voice came through, laughing. "If the old woman just drops dead, even better. That's over 200 grand in insurance." Brenda answered steady, like it was nothing. Don't say that. Ethan might hear." I laughed. "Just a short, dry sound, the kind you make when there's no crying left in you." When it hits you without anyone saying it, you're not a mother anymore. Not a mother-in-law. Not a grandmother. You're just a number on a check. I turned to Ethan, put a hand on his shoulder, pulled him close. Thank you, son. Thank you for not being like them. He hugged me hard, rested his forehead on my shoulder. I didn't know what else to do. Grandma, you did what you had to, but now I need your word. I let him go, looked him in the eye. That phone, don't send it. Don't upload it. Don't show anyone. Not until I say so. You understand? Yes, Grandma, I swear. I wiped my face, fixed my cardigan, took a breath like it was the first one in hours. I walked back to the table like nothing had happened. Not because I'm some great actress. I never was, but after a while, you learn how to keep the shaking on the inside. The body moves, whether your spirit's with it or not. Brenda was pouring tequila for Mr. Schmidt, the neighbor. She was laughing that high-pitched phony laugh of hers, that sounds straight out of a daytime soap. One hand on the bottle, the other on his shoulder. Oh, Mr. Schmidt, you're looking so handsome today. Hasn't anyone told you you've got a bit of Frank Sinatra in you? He lifted his glass, grinning. Well, if you say so, ma'am, I'll take your word for it. I walked over slowly. Leo stood next to me, holding a napkin, wearing a smile that didn't quite belong to him. You done, Ma? Everything good? Need a hand? No, son, everything's fine, I said, barely looking his way. I sat down next to Patty, the neighbor from across the street. She had on that loud lime green blouse with the oversized flowers, same one she always wore when she wanted to feel festive. She grabbed my arm and leaned in with a smirk. Your daughter-in-law's got it all together, huh? She moves around this house like it's hers, and she does everything so well. You're real lucky, sweetheart. I looked at her, smiled, said nothing. What was I supposed to say? That yeah, she moves like it's hers, and maybe she really thinks it is. Ethan sat at the head of the table, quiet as ever. He didn't talk much, but his eyes were restless, bouncing around the room. He kept watching his mother like he didn't even trust the air she walked through. Got between sips of sweet tea, I stood and went to grab some plates from the cupboard. I pulled open the silverware drawer, and the key that's supposed to be there, the one for the cabinet where I keep the house papers and business cash, was gone. I felt around the sides. Nothing. I closed it slow, opened the glass cabinet where I keep the crystal. 2 were missing. The nicest ones, the pair I bought in Santa Barbara when I turned 50. I thought, maybe I left them by the sink, but deep down, I already knew. I came back to the table. Brenda walked up with that smile I've seen 100 times. Here you go, Mom, she said, setting a plate in front of me with a slice of apple pie and 2 strawberries on top. You need to eat. You know how it is, at our age, dessert's not optional. She looked at me with that fake softness, like she was talking to me through a screen door. I didn't look away. I know. I remember everything. She kept smiling, but one side of her mouth stiffened. She didn't say anything else. I got up without a sound, went upstairs, closed my door, locked it. I sat in the old armchair by the bookshelf. Right there on the middle shelf was the photo of Leo on graduation day. I remembered it all, his cap tilted too far back, that anxious smile, the diploma clutched like a weapon. I really thought that degree would shield him from everything. I was so wrong. I stared at it for a long time. Now, with everything I knew, that picture felt like a needle behind my eye. It didn't feel like pride anymore. It felt like a joke I hadn't noticed until now. I opened the closet, pulled down the wooden jewelry box. When I lifted the lid, I saw it right away. My mother's pearl necklace was gone. Everything else was still there, but not that. I tore through the drawers, checked under my underwear, behind the mirror, nothing. Then I opened the hidden compartment in my nightstand, where I keep my bank statements. It was empty except for a few old receipts, and a letter I never opened from 2 years back. I wasn't shocked. I didn't feel stolen from. I felt hollowed out, like someone had reached right into my chest and taken whatever was left. I turned on the cassette player sitting on my desk, the one that's never let me down. The tape inside was one I'd made of my mother a week before she passed. Her voice was clearer than I remembered. Take care of yourself, my daughter. Don't let anyone erase you. Not with affection, not with promises. The one who loves you doesn't make you disappear. I nodded without saying a word. I didn't feel alone. Not really. Even if it was just the echo keeping me company. I picked up the hardbound notebook where I jot down the serious stuff and scribbled in blue ink. Friday to 9 a.m., Fake appointment with Dr. Evans. Call Renata. Urgent. I tucked it in the drawer, pulled my cardigan back on, and headed downstairs. Half the guests were already gone. Mr. Schmidt tipped his hat goodbye. Patty was fumbling with her purse. Brenda was clearing the table like she was clocked in at some upscale diner. "I'm almost done, Mom," she said, not bothering to look my way. "Thanks, baby." She came over and hugged me with one arm. I could smell that heavy perfume she always wears. She kissed my cheek, then leaned in close and whispered, "Don't forget your little pill, okay? You know how you lose track of time sometimes." I looked her dead in the eye. Didn't blink. "Don't worry, I count them out. One by one. On time. Every single day." Brenda gave a nervous chuckle but didn't meet my eyes again. She went right back to cleaning. I stepped out to the porch, settled into the old wicker chair, and stared at the sky. The clouds moved slow and gray. The silence wasn't heavy, not yet, but it had started to speak. I didn't sleep that night. My body stayed in bed, sure, but my mind sat on the edge, wide awake, listening for a sound that never came. The wall clock marked each second like it was stabbing me in the chest. Tick-tock, tick. I couldn't tell if it was sadness, disappointment, or just plain exhaustion dragging me down. I kept thinking, how did I ever believe I had a real family? How did I miss what was growing right there, under my nose? Just before dawn, with the sky still a pale gray, I got up. The floor was cold. I went to the kitchen, filled a glass with water from the jug, and held it with both hands. That's when I noticed my fingers, short nails, half broken, dry skin with little scars, burn marks from oil, cuts that never healed right, reminders of all the years I spent grabbing hot pots. These hands carried me through it all. They held Leo when he was little. They held my husband as he was dying in that hospital bed. They sold chili on street corners under the burning sun. I just stared at them. They were shaking a little, like even they felt the betrayal. I thought about that year, the worst one. I was 45. My husband left one night and never made it back. A semi hit him on the highway on his way home. We buried him without a fancy coffin, without flowers. I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because I didn't have time. The next morning, I went to the market, put on my apron, reheated leftover chili, and sold it on a busted cart. Someone let me borrow. Leo was 14, thin, quiet. That night, while we ate beans and stale tortillas, he looked at me and said, "Mom, I can get a job. Don't worry, I'm going to help you." I'll never forget that. That sentence carried me for years. After that, I rented a better cart, cooked on a tiny propane stove, got up at 4, went to bed after midnight. One winter, it got so cold, the chili froze in the pot before I could serve it. I nearly passed out from pushing too hard. Mauro, the guy from the fruit stall, saw me swaying and just handed me a warm roll and a glass of milk. Didn't say a word. I brought it home, split the roll, gave Leo the bigger half. He smiled like I'd served him a banquet. Years later, I bought my own cart and landed a corner spot at the Midtown Market. I stayed up all night scrubbing the grease off the walls because I wanted the place to feel like mine. Clean, respectable. When I finally opened the stall with my name on it, Helen's Homestyle, I stood there for a long time just staring at the sign. "You did it, you tough old broad," I muttered through clenched teeth. Ethan came along when I was 53, and from the second I laid eyes on him, I knew he was mine. He had those same eyes Leo had when he was little. No one needed to explain anything. I knew exactly what to do. I gave him his first mashed banana, changed his diapers when he cried at 3 a.m. Brenda was always busy with conferences or away at training. I didn't ask questions. I told myself it wasn't my place. Turns out it was. Even back then, she was already making decisions, what to give, what to hold back. She wasn't strong. She just knew how to step over people who wouldn't push back. I think about the first time Leo brought her over. I made roasted chicken with fresh herbs and smooth gravy, set the table with a clean cloth, even cleaned out the old mortar and pestle. She barely ate, dabbed her mouth with the napkin, and said, "It's good but a little salty, don't you think?" I laughed. I thought, she's got some guts. Now I think she was warning me. I just didn't hear it. I was a fool, a complete fool. When I opened the savings account with the money I'd tucked away over the years, I added Leo's, Brenda's, and Ethan's names, thought it'd be a quiet gift, something they'd discover later. When I'm gone, they'll know I was thinking of all of them. Well, They know now. And from the way they're acting, seems like they can't wait for that day to come. I lit the small burner out on the patio, the butane one I save for power outages, heated some water in the dented aluminum pot, sat down on the stool, felt the flame warming my legs. I opened that thick-lined notebook I keep, full of grocery lists, random quotes, and prayers when the house feels too quiet. In steady handwriting, I wrote, "You shouldn't feel pity for someone who is willing to bury you just to inherit your grave." I closed the notebook slow. People like to say love conquers all. It doesn't. If you don't take care of it, love rots, and when it does, it stinks worse than betrayal. That morning, I didn't need time to think. I picked up the phone early, just as the sky started to lighten. My hands were cold, but my voice didn't shake. "Renata, it's me. I need you, now." There was a short pause. Then her voice came through, calm but steady. "I'll be there this afternoon, at 4:45. I hung up, sat down at the kitchen table, my back straight but my chest tight. I hadn't seen Renata Hayes in over 10 years. We were roommates back in the city, when I still had dreams of running my own place. She became a lawyer, I became a street cook, but we never stopped respecting each other. Sometimes, that's enough. At exactly 4:45, the doorbell rang. I stood right up. There she was, hair pulled back in a neat bun, gray wool coat, square glasses, and a leather briefcase snapped shut. She looked just like I remembered, maybe a little thinner. Same eyes as always, direct, all business. She came in like nothing had changed. "This place still smells like cinnamon, just like it did 10 years ago," she said the moment she stepped inside. "And you're still wearing that coat," I said, half smiling. "I wear it when I know something big is coming." We sat at the dining table. I poured her coffee like I used to, with brown sugar. She didn't drink it, just looked me in the eye and said, "Tell me everything. Take your time." I didn't hold back. I told her about the video, the audio, Leah and Brenda's plan, how they were tightening the screws on me, legally, methodically. Renata didn't say a word until I played her the recording. Then she said, "There are holes in how they're doing this, big enough to tear the whole thing down. What they're trying to do to you, it's illegal. We can fight this and hit back. No crying after that. Just strategy." She pulled out a notepad and started writing. "First, we freeze the savings account. Then I'll file to block any changes to your medical records. I need your property's registration number. We're going to lock it all down." I nodded. She kept writing, fast, then looked up. "What do you want to do in the meantime?" "Me? Yes. Are you going to sit tight or do you want to stay one step ahead?" I paused, thought about how Brenda handed me pie like I was some confused old lady, how Leo offered help while sneaking things out of my drawers. "I'm going to play dumb," I said. "Let them think my memory's slipping. I want to see how far they'll go when they think they've got me cornered." Renata gave me a small smile. "Good. If you're going to play a role, go all in. No halfway stuff. If there's one thing I've got plenty of, it's memory. But I'll act like it's gone." That same night, I looked tired and told Leo's son, "I think I want to move in with you. I'm not feeling strong anymore. I forget things. I'm scared to be alone." His eyes lit up like he'd hit the jackpot. "Really, Ma? Of course. Whatever you need, we'll take care of you, right?" Brenda came out of the kitchen like she'd just heard angels. "Oh, Mom, that's such a good call. You shouldn't be on your own. We'll pack your stuff tomorrow." "No, tonight. If I wait, I'll back out." Within 2 hours, they had me in their car with a thrown-together suitcase, headed for their apartment. That's when the performance started. I let the sink run all night, pretended I left the stove on, woke up at 6 in the morning to knock on Ethan's door and tell him he was late for elementary school. Brenda started calling me dearest Mom in this syrupy voice. "Have you eaten, dearest Mom? Did you take your pills?" she'd ask like she was brushing lace with her words. I used to nod along, barely spoke. Sometimes I'd repeat random phrases just to seem off. Played dumb. It twisted something in me, but I kept it down. Ethan stayed close. One day, while we were half watching some soap on TV, he leaned over and said, "Grandma, I hid a bug under the bookshelf. Right where Dad sits when he's on the phone. What if they catch it?" "They won't." I also stuck a hidden camera behind their wedding photo. Great view. Catches everything. "Thank you, Sam." By day 3, Renata came back. She had 3 documents. First, a medical certificate from Dr. Ayers, my old doctor, confirming I was fully lucid. Second, a power of attorney naming her as my emergency proxy. Third, a signed statement where I, Helen Miller, pledged to donate over 20 years of savings to a foundation for abandoned elderly women. "You ready to sign?" she asked, sliding the pen over. "More than ready." I picked up the pen, steady hand, and signed all three, one after the other. Renata gathered them up, then looked at me. "How long are you planning to keep this up?" "Until Friday. Evans is coming Friday to evaluate me." Seems like the perfect time to remind them who they forgot. The woman who raised them. That night, I pulled out the amber wool scarf Ethan gave me for my 67th birthday, laid it across my legs, folded it neatly, tucked it in my suitcase next to my notebook. It wasn't just a scarf. It was a vow, and I was keeping it. These hands that built everything, they also knew how to protect what was theirs. Wednesday night, I was fake dozing on the couch when Ethan came over and slipped his phone into my hand. Didn't say a word, just looked at me like he was passing something burning. "You know it hurts, but you hold on." I went into the bathroom, locked the door, turned the volume just enough to hear but not echo. The recording started right away. Brenda's voice, calm, clear, like she was reading a recipe. "I already spoke with Evans. He said as long as Mom fails 3 key questions, that's it. Diagnosis ready and request signed. We just need her to get confused. That's all." Then Leo's laugh, dry, foreign. "Everything's going according to plan. Better than I thought, actually." I stood there, frozen, water still running in the sink. Didn't shut it off. Just stared at myself in the fogged-up mirror. I wasn't mad. I wasn't crying. I just felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my spine. That boy, the one I held through fevers, the one who clung to my leg during storms, now spoke of me like I was a broken chair blocking the hallway. I came out slow, waited until they were all in their rooms. Then I went to the closet, pulled open the bottom drawer where I kept the real things, took out Leo's birth certificate. It still had that coffee stain, right beside it. The envelope with his first birthday card, a teddy bear sketch, and shaky letters I helped him trace. I walked into the living room, lit the fireplace, and dropped both papers into the flames. It wasn't about anger. It was about clearing space. Sometimes, you've got to shut the door yourself, because no one else will. Not long after, my phone buzzed. A text from Renata. "Friday, 9 a.m. confirmed. I'm ready." I answered simply, "Me too." Later, while folding blankets, the landline rang. Brenda. Her voice, same as always, gentle, polished. "Mom, don't worry about breakfast tomorrow. We'll bring it. Dr. Evans is coming by, but it's nothing big. Just checking on something small, okay?" I put on my spacey grandma voice, light and sweet. "Oh, thank you, honey. If you hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have remembered he was coming. I'm losing track of the days. Don't worry. Just rest, okay? We've got it all covered for tomorrow." I hung up and looked at the phone for a minute. Then I walked to the dining room cabinet, opened the bottom drawer, and searched through the old dishes. I found it, the bowl with the crack running through the base, the last thing of my husband's. I set it down on the coffee table in the middle of the room. I stared at it. That bowl had held up better than most people. I turned off every light in the house but one, the one that let the moon come through the blinds. It stretched across the tile in a broken, steady line. I sat there in the quiet and said to myself, 3 times, don't expect explanations. Don't forgive just because they're family. Don't flinch when the moment comes. The next morning, when I opened the fridge to grab the milk, I left my wallet next to the ham. It wasn't an accident. It was part of the setup. I needed them to think I was slipping. Brenda caught it first. I saw her in the corner of my eye as she grabbed the orange juice. "Mom, did you put your purse in the fridge?" I gave her a dazed look. "Did I? Lord, I can't even keep track of my own things anymore, sweetheart." She gave me that kind of smile people get when they're sure they've already won. "What if we went to the doctor today instead? Just in case tomorrow gets hectic." I gave her a slow, puzzled glance, like I was trying to piece things together today. No. You said he was coming tomorrow, didn't you?" "Yeah, but, just in case." No, tomorrow's fine. I don't have the energy for it today." Leo walked by behind us, acting like he didn't hear a thing. Later, I went to my room, opened the nightstand, and pulled out the beige sweater, folded it nice and neat. It still smelled like my kitchen, like anise, smoke, damp ashes. the scent of me, of who I was, of who I still am. I packed it in the suitcase. I packed my notebook too, everything in its place. I sat down on the bed. I wasn't shaking, I wasn't sweating. I was ready, like a woman who's worked dough her whole life and knows the exact moment to take the bread out. No timer needed. Tomorrow, I wouldn't be the forgetful mom. I'd be the woman who raised them with grit and bare hands. And I wasn't about to hand over what's mine without making them earn it. That Friday, I didn't need an alarm clock. I was wide awake before sunrise, not from nerves, but from the kind of calm that comes when you know exactly what's coming. When something big is about to happen, your body just knows. I got up without rushing, put a kettle on, made my cinnamon coffee like always. While it brewed, I washed my face in cold water and brushed my hair back into a tight bun. I wore the white embroidered blouse I usually saved for serious days at the market, pressed dark slacks. The pearl earrings Rosa gave me when I opened my first booth. I pulled back the front curtains. I wanted the light, no shadows. Today needed to be clear. Right at 8:59, the doorbell rang. I walked to it, steady and slow. No fear, no drama. Brenda stood in front, wearing a simple white blouse like she was on her way to church. Leo was next to her, black briefcase tucked under his arm. Behind them was a tall, skinny man in dark sunglasses, a leather bag hanging from his shoulder. "Good morning, Mom," Brenda said with a sugary smile. "Dr. Evans is here, like we talked about." "Good morning," I said, opening the door wide. "Come on in. I made cinnamon tea and sweet rolls. It's chilly out, you'll like it." They stepped in and sat in the living room. The doctor pulled out a notebook stamped with a private clinic's logo. He clicked a pen and leaned back in the armchair across from me. "Mrs. Miller, this is nothing complicated," he said, gentle. "I just need to ask a few standard questions." "All right, of course, doctor, go ahead. What day is it today?" "Tuesday, or maybe Wednesday," I said, glancing up at the ceiling like I was trying to pin it down. He scribbled a note, nodded. "And who's the President of the United States?" "Oh, young man, that changes all the time. I think it's still Clinton. Or did Bush come back?" He wrote again. Brenda and Leo shared a quick glance. Small, barely there, but I caught it. Then came the third question. "What's your grandson's name?" I went quiet, dropped my head, counted to 5, acted unsure, opened my mouth, shut it again. Dr. Evans looked up like he was checking off a box. Brenda gave Leo a slight nod. Everything going by the playbook. The doctor lifted his pen, reached for the folder. "With this, we can move forward with the preliminary recommendation. Double quotes. "One moment, doctor," I said, raising my hand. "Before you sign anything, mind if I show you a short video? Just something from the past." Leo narrowed his eyes. Brenda blinked, like she didn't get it. I picked up the remote, pointed it at the screen, and hit play. Right away, the living room lit up on screen. Leo's voice, clear as day. "With that, Evans will have what he needs. If she messes up 3 times, that's it. Diagnosis done." Then the line that nailed it all. "And if the old lady just drops dead, even better. That's over 200 grand from the insurance." Dr. Evans stiffened. Leo moved forward a bit, his voice shaky. "Mom, where'd you get that? You're twisting it." Brenda shot to her feet, face flushed. "This is illegal, Mom. You can't record us like that. It's a total invasion of privacy." I didn't raise my voice. "Settle down, we're still waiting on someone." Right then, the back door creaked open. Renata walked in with purpose, holding a thick folder, wearing that gray blazer she always put on for court. Behind her came Detective Mendoza, flanked by 2 uniformed officers, badges clearly visible. One stepped forward, pulled out a warrant, and read it loud and clear. "Leo Miller, Brenda Miller, and the individual identified as Dr. Evans. You are officially under investigation for possible involvement in at least 9 cases of elder guardianship abuse and financial fraud. You are requested to come with us immediately." Leo backed up a few steps, shoulders dropping. Brenda screamed, "Where's the evidence? This is insane. I'll sue every last one of you for defamation." "This is a setup," a voice spoke up from the back of the room. "You want proof?" It was Ethan. He stepped forward, steady and calm. "Chin up. I'm the witness. I recorded everything, and I'm ready to testify." Leo didn't say a word. Brenda turned to him, then to Ethan. "Ethan, you're turning on us." "No, I'm standing up for the truth." I rose, walked over, and gently touched Ethan's arm. "Thank you, sweetheart. You've done what you had to. Now, it's their turn. One of the officers cuffed Brenda. She fought it. Dr. Evans just bowed his head, silent. Leo didn't speak either, just stared down, like a lost kid in a department store. I glanced at the clock on the wall, 9:42. For the first time in years, I was the one holding the door open so they could leave. But I wasn't the one walking out this time. They were. And the house, finally, was mine again. After the police took Leo, Brenda, and that soaked doctor, I stayed seated in the dining room, alone. No one else remained. The sweet rolls sat untouched on the plate, like they were still waiting for someone to eat them. The cinnamon tea was warm, but I didn't sip it. I just watched the steam fade, like everything that happened might cool with it. The silence in the house had changed. It wasn't tight or thick anymore. It was the kind of quiet that let me hear the weight of my own body. I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes for a second. Footsteps echoed from the back hall. Not Leo's heavy pace, not Brenda's rushed shuffle. These steps were steady, young, intentional. Grandma. Ethan peeked through the doorway. Someone's here to talk to you. I looked him in the eyes. I didn't need to ask. I stood up slowly, like someone who knows nothing ahead can sting worse than what's already been lived through. I walked to the front door, and there she stood. Veronica, faded blue shirt, hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing the face of someone done pretending. In her hand was a slim folder. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Miller," she said gently. "I know I'm no longer part of this family. But just like you, I was used." I looked her in the eye and motioned her inside. "Come in, sweetheart. No need to say too much. In this house, we listen when someone speaks from the heart." She stepped in but stayed standing, tall and still, like her words would land better. "That way, this is for you," she said, opening a folder. "These are the documents I've kept all these years. Joint bank statements with Leo. Receipts from the jewelry he sold behind my back. Property transfer forms with forged signatures. Everything's here." I offered her a glass of water. She didn't take it. She just kept going. Leo was already with Brenda before we divorced. She pushed him into it. She didn't just show up out of nowhere. It started small. Advice here, a little legal help there, and then one day, they'd cleaned us out. She paused, and I waited. I wanted her to finish. "I kept quiet because I figured you wouldn't believe me. He's your son." And I was already out of the picture. But after seeing the news today, I realized it was never just about me. I stared at her. "So why now?" "Because what they did to you, it's unforgivable. I made it through, sure. But watching them do it to the woman who brought them into this world, that broke me. And if I stay silent now, I'm just as guilty." I took a breath, heavy and slow. It wasn't anger I felt. It was something deeper, heavier. "Are you ready to testify?" "Yes, ma'am. I've already told the police they can count on me." Renata reached out. She asked for everything, and I gave it to her. Not for revenge, for justice. I nodded. Sometimes the truth takes its time, but it always finds a way. The next day, Renata came back with investigators. We sat in the living room. Ethan brought his laptop and pulled up video from the hidden camera behind Leo and Brenda's wedding photo. One showed Brenda digging through my documents in the middle of the night while I slept on the couch. Another had Leo on the phone trying to change the authorized name on one of my accounts. In another, Brenda reached into my purse and took something without me noticing. The agents took notes. They asked for a full statement. I gave it, clear and steady. Each word felt like setting down a stone I'd carried too long. That night, I sat by the fireplace with the old cassette recorder, same one I'd used for years to hear my mother's voice. I pressed play. Kindness is not the same as blindness. Don't let anyone, no matter how close, use you under the excuse of loving you. That sentence used to sting. Now, I understood it. 3 days later, someone knocked at my door. A small woman stood there, hair white as snow, face weathered and tired. She held a stack of papers in her hand, eyes worn out. "Are you Mrs. Miller?" "Yes, ma'am. What can I do for you?" "My name's Teresa Lopez. I'm 72. I saw what happened to you in the paper. I got caught up with that Evans guy too. My daughter-in-law dragged me into it. They nearly had me locked away. If my granddaughter hadn't started asking questions and called the cops, I wouldn't be here." I let her in. She sat down slow, stiff from age, but she held herself with pride. "I didn't have it in me to say anything back then. But what you did, you spoke for people like me. Thank you for standing up when most of us couldn't. She reached for my hand. Hers was rough, solid, honest. Thank you, she said, again, for naming what we were all too scared to say. Later that night, I opened my closet, pulled out the amber wool scarf, the one I hadn't touched since everything began. I didn't fold it this time, didn't tuck it away. I wrapped it around my neck, slow, steady, like slipping back into the skin I lost. And that night, for the first time in weeks, I slept without fear. I'd never stepped foot in a courtroom before. I always figured I'd shake, maybe sweat through my palms, maybe even forget how to breathe. But that morning, I sat tall, my spine straight, my chest steady. Ethan sat beside me and held my hand. His grip was young, warm, steady. I wasn't alone anymore. Across from us were the three of them. Brenda had her hair pulled tight, her lips painted in that pale shade she always wore like armor. Leo wouldn't meet my eyes. He stared at some scuff on the floor, like it could swallow him whole. Dr. Evans, in his pale blue shirt and bland, office face, didn't even try to look human. Their hands were cuffed, like they should be. The judge walked in, called the room to order. The prosecutor started. He opened a folder and laid it all out, one piece after another. First, the videos, Leo and Brenda plotting, picking dates, planting confusion. Then the audio, Leo making a crack about the life insurance. Then the footage of Brenda rifling through my things while I slept. Then came the bank records. The prosecutor pointed to the name Philip Rogers, a guy who worked at my bank. These are the transfers. Pulled on specific days. Moved into shell accounts under fake company names. Leo's head sank even lower. Renata, my lawyer, stood up. Her voice was clean and sharp. This wasn't some misunderstanding. It was deliberate. It was planned. It was repeated. This wasn't about helping a family member. It was about erasing her, taking her life, her voice, her assets. Then they called Veronica. She stood up and walked to the stand with her back straight. Her voice wavered at first, but then steadied. I was married to Leo. I loved him. I really did. But he loved his credit card more. Brenda had me sign stuff I didn't understand. They kicked me out of my own home, wrote me off like I didn't exist. But when I saw what they did to Mrs. Miller, I realized I wasn't the only one. After that, Mrs. Eleanor Vargas took the stand. She was an older woman, visiting from another state, walking slow with a cane. Her voice was steady. They brought me to that same doctor. Tried to lock me up too, with made-up diagnoses. My daughter got tricked by this woman. She pointed at Brenda. She convinced her. I got out because my granddaughter stepped in. Not all of us had that chance. Then it was Dr. Julianne Ayres' turn. She stood up with her white coat folded neatly over her arm, reports in hand. I examined Mrs. Miller 3 separate times. Her cognitive function is intact. There's no sign of mental decline. What happened wasn't a medical error. It was deliberate fraud. Next, they called Ethan. My grandson rose to his feet, took a deep breath, and walked up. He glanced at me just once without saying a word. Then he turned to the 2 people he used to call his parents. I'm the son of Brenda and Leo. I'm not here for payback. I'm here to tell the truth. I was there. I recorded their conversations. I heard my father say it'd be better if my grandmother were dead. I saw my mother go through her things and take her documents. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. His voice didn't shake. He said it all. Steady, clear, like someone who already knew exactly who he was going to be. Then they called my name. I walked up without a folder or a speech. I'm not here to ask for revenge. I'm here to protect what's mine. Because for too long, I forgot that I have the right to stand up for myself. They didn't trick me. They just didn't think I'd fight back. That's not the same thing. The courtroom went still. Not a single heavy breath. The judge spoke again. He opened the sentencing paperwork. His voice was flat but firm. Brenda Miller, 20 years in prison. No possibility of early release. Brenda didn't scream. She just bit her lip. Leo Miller, 14 years in prison, with full financial restitution to the victim. Leo closed his eyes. Dr. Benjamin Evans, case transferred to federal court on charges of fraud, forging official documents, and racketeering involving elder exploitation. Silence again. This time, it was the kind that settles in when everything's finally over. We left. I didn't turn back. I didn't look for their faces. No anger, no pity, just calm. Ethan squeezed my hand gently. Let's go home, Grandma. I nodded. Once we got there, I opened every window. The wind pushed in hard, lifting the old curtains. I let them blow. Outside, the sun was starting to set. Inside, for the first time in years, there was no fear. I woke up before dawn, not from habit, just because the body learns how to live without flinching. I filled the aluminum kettle, the same one I bought when Leo was 8 and I was still selling chili in front of the church on Sundays. It still works, still whistles when it boils. Ethan was already up. I heard the faucet run, then his voice, humming something low. Did you make coffee, Grandma? It's almost ready, baby. Kind of chilly this morning, huh? Yeah, but not like before, he said from the kitchen, pulling down 2 mugs from the shelf. He's been here nearly a year now, never asked to stay, just stayed, like a tree growing roots when no one's looking. The house doesn't feel empty now. You hear laughter, sneakers squeaking through the hall, spoons clinking, neighbors knocking with tortillas, flowers. Someone even brought a live chicken once. I turned down the chicken, but still, it meant something. The old room where I used to keep bills and paperwork now has a light wooden sign that says the Miller Fund. Renata had it made without running it by me. It's your name. It should be yours, she said as she hung it on the wall. Every Tuesday we give free legal help. Thursdays are for support sessions with seniors. It's not some polished clinic, but the chairs are soft and the coffee's hot. People stay. That says enough. One day this woman, hair white like boiled corn, walked in. Dolores, my daughter, made me sign some papers, said they were for a doctor. A month later, I was off my land. I'm not a lawyer, never went past high school. I just held her hand and told her, they tried to push me out of my own life, too, but I'm still standing. And you will be, too. Another Tuesday, this man showed up, wearing a beret, hands shaking around a manila envelope. My wife's 20 years younger. At first she looked after me. Now she says if I don't sign over power of attorney, she cut me off from medical care. I looked him dead in the eyes. And what do you want? I just don't want to be disappeared. Ethan hears it all. Sometimes he'll sit with the seniors like he's carrying some old man's soul in him. One afternoon while we were going through paperwork, he said, "You know why I went into geriatrics? Because you love bugging me about my pills." I told him, because if we don't care for the ones who took care of us, then what's the point of any of this? Teresa's here, full-time. She keeps a notebook where she writes down every visit, every coffee poured, even the songs clients hum to her. She says music quiets anger quicker than talking. Mrs. Eleanor bakes cinnamon rolls that fill the place with warmth, says the smell makes people feel less alone. Sometimes she hums while kneading. Her voice is scratchy, but it's real. Veronica lives 3 blocks away now, calls me every Friday to double-check the books. She started a class for older women, teaching them how to read contracts, avoid scams, stand up for themselves. I don't want anyone else going through what I did, she says, passing out the guides. We brought the garden back to life. Everyone picked what they wanted to plant. Ethan chose peppers, to make the pain bite a little less, he joked. Eleanor went with sunflowers, so they always face where the light is. I planted my roses again, the same ones that dried out last year. This time, I speak to them. I tell them, you're not alone. I'm not either. One Tuesday, while clearing out the pantry, I came across an old cookie tin. Brand doesn't even exist anymore. Inside were candy wrappers, a nickel, and 3 letters, all addressed to Leo. I knew the handwriting was mine, but couldn't remember writing them. I read each one. They were about love, fear, guilt. I burned them on the stove, no ceremony, not out of anger, just to let go. One Thursday as we were closing up the office, Ethan gave me this serious look and said, "Grandma, it's time you saw a doctor." "Oh, honey, I feel just fine." "Exactly, I want to keep it that way." So I went. The doctor was young. He treated me with respect, no talking down, no fuss. After the checkup he said, "You're all good, ma'am. Just promise me one thing. Don't let your soul get heavy." I didn't say anything, but in my head, I thought, my soul has been heavy, doctor. I just learned how to carry it. That afternoon, with the sun hanging low, I stepped into the garden. The plants caught the light just right. In every corner, there were little markers showing who had planted what. I walked over to the one bare patch of soil and added another. This one didn't have a name, just a line that read, "Here, everything blooms again." It was early, sky all soaked in gray, A light drizzle that doesn't soak you, but settles into your bones. I was already in the kitchen, radio humming low, coffee brewing. That's when I noticed something on the windowsill. A folded piece of paper. No envelope, no name. I only needed to see the first curve of the handwriting, that slanted Y, those sharp, rigid accents. Brenda, I didn't open it. I just looked at it for a while, like you'd look at fruit that's already fallen. You can't put it back where it came from. I left it on the table, poured some tea, peeled an apple, opened an old recipe book I haven't used in years, just buying time. Ethan walked through the kitchen. You get something, Grandma. Yeah, but it's not pressing. Want me to read it? No, baby, this one's mine. I waited until afternoon, locked myself in the office, pulled the blinds, sat down at the desk. I opened the letter. The handwriting was still steady, but something had shifted. It wasn't proud. It wasn't sorry either. It felt far away. I don't know when ambition became action. I'm not here to justify myself, but I won't apologize for something I did knowing exactly what I was doing. I don't blame you for fighting back. If it were me, I might have done the same. What hurts is what I lost. Not the money. The things you can't buy or replace. I hope the flowers in your garden are still blooming. At least they don't lie. Take care of Ethan. He still believes. I folded the letter into quarters, slow and steady. No tears, no deep breaths, just a silence that settled in my chest like dust. I went to the junk drawer where I keep the scissors and masking tape, filled with things I don't use but can't seem to throw away. Slid the letter all the way to the back. That night, I felt like sorting the bookshelf. Between books caked in dust, I found the green photo album I hadn't opened in years. I flipped it open. Leo at 5, grinning with ice cream dripping down his wrist. Ethan, as a newborn in my arms, red-faced and wrinkled. One photo of all 4 of us standing in front of a Christmas stand, wearing ridiculous hats. I stopped on that one. Grandma. Ethan stood at the doorway, his eyes uneasy. It's nothing, I said. Just found a memory I'm not sure belongs to me anymore. I handed him the album. You keep it. Put it somewhere. I won't see it every day. He clutched it to his chest and left the room without saying a word. The next morning, with the ground still soft from last night's rain, we set out to plant flowers along the fence line. Eleanor showed up with marigold clippings. Teresa wore a wide-brimmed hat pulled low past her ears, and Ethan came hauling the tools. We're definitely getting dirty today, he said, handing me a small trowel. Gladly. Son. Working the soil does more for the soul than 1,000 lectures. Want to know what I'm planting? Teresa asked, grinning. A morning glory. That way, every time one blooms, I'll remember I made it through. I'm going with sunflowers, Eleanor said, even if they're out of season. And you, Grandma? Marigolds. Sure, they're for the dead, but they're also for the living, who know when it's time to let go. We got started. Ethan hammered a wooden sign into the ground and wrote on it with a black marker, "The Happiness Garden," then stuck it right in the middle. I looked down at my hands, caked in dirt, the dark edges under my nails, the deep lines, the knobby joints. These hands had raised kids, protected them, lost things too, but here they were again, making room for something new. That night, while I was scrubbing my hands, I noticed a small cut on my index finger. Nothing big, but it reminded me of something my mother used to say: life cuts you sometimes, but it also teaches you where not to run the knife again. I had a light dinner and sat in the rocker. Ethan was reading on the couch. We stayed quiet for a while. Then he spoke. Did the letter hurt? Not more than what I already knew. Are you going to reply? No. Some letters are written just to clear a guilty conscience, not to start something new. And if she shows up one day, then let her knock. But I'm not sitting around waiting anymore. Ethan came over and sat beside me, rested his head on my shoulder like he used to when he was little. Thanks for still being here, Grandma. Thanks for not walking away from me. I closed my eyes. I listened to the curtains flutter in the breeze. Outside, the sign held steady in the yard. The Happiness Garden. Not perfect, but it was ours. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the need to explain a damn thing. This story is based on real events. Names and places were changed to protect the people involved. It's about a mother who gave everything to her kids and grandkids, only to be used, discarded, and forgotten. But when she finally had nothing left to lose, she stood up for herself. And this time, she lived on her own terms. We're not here to point fingers, just to ask you to think. How many mothers are suffering in silence inside their own homes? Now, I want to hear from you, the one listening. What would you have done in my shoes? Have you lived through anything like this? Drop a comment and let me know. And before you go, I've left 2 more stories on the final screen. Favorites on the channel and ones you won't forget. Thanks for sticking with me till the end.